I can already hear you saying, yes Daniel, of course I'll boycott The Last Jedi, just after I finish boycotting food, water and borrowing my neighbour's Wi-Fi. Now I'll confess that Disney hasn't done itself any favours recently with the way it followed the highly contentious decision by the studio to block critics from the Los Angeles Times from seeing an early release of the film, or indeed any other Disney film, after the paper ran a less than glowing piece into Disney's business practices. The investigative piece by LA Times reporter Daniel Miller alleges that despite soaring profits, Disney has continued to demand and secure subsidies, incentives, rebates and protections from future taxes that would be worth a total of more than $1 billion. It reveals that the city's complicated and increasingly tense relationship with its biggest and most powerful corporate citizen, and how Disney has negotiated these pacts with a carrot and stick approach, one that has often included the company's threat of directing its investment dollars elsewhere. Now, news of the ban did spread quickly throughout Hollywood, prompting the Washington Post's pop culture writer Alicia Rosenberg to start a boycott, which she extended to include future Disney movies. Writing in her column, she said, "As long as Disney is blocking the critics from the Los Angeles Times from press screenings, I can't in good conscience attend similar showings or write reviews in advance." Members of the National Society of Film Critics, Los Angeles Film Critics Association, and the New York Film Critics Circle all issued statements condemning the press ban, while other influential critics also joined the boycott, including the AV Club's A.A. Dowd, Flavorwire's Jason Bailey, and CNN's Jake Tapper. Also, film critic bodies in LA, Boston, and New York declared they would exclude Disney from that influential end-of-year awards until this small-minded ban was reversed. Hell, even over here in London, the London Critics Circle looks set to join the boycott as well until Disney swallowed its pride and climbed down, stating, "We've had productive discussions with the newly installed leadership at the Los Angeles Times regarding our specific concerns, and as a result, we've agreed to restore access to advanced screenings for their film critics." But hey, I get it. Critics having to lower themselves to watching films with the common folk isn't going to stop you from seeing Star Wars. It wouldn't stop me either, but that's because when I get my reviews out before the big boys, I get more views. So let me try another tack. Disney is requiring 65% of the revenue from ticket sales from theatres, up from a mere 64% for Star Wars The Force Awakens and Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. They're also requiring theatres play their film in their largest auditorium for at least 4 weeks, whilst other Disney movies are typically in that space for 2 weeks. But let's say, hypothetically, a theatre were to break any part of that agreement. That increase would jump 5% to a whopping 70%. That means if a cinema agrees to air the film on 8 screens for the first 4 weeks, but drops one of them before that time because the tickets just aren't selling enough to justify it, they will be penalised. The report also states that studios generally get about 55 to 60% of the revenue from domestic screenings and about 40% overseas. Now, these aren't the worst terms for large cities and big theatre chains, considering Star Wars: The Last Jedi is going to be a record-breaking hit. But when it comes to smaller cinemas in smaller markets, there's little incentive to play it. Consider a small town with a 2-screen cinema that might not show the film with these conditions. If they're forced to keep Star Wars: The Last Jedi playing for a month when they could be using that screen for newer films, they could end up losing money anyways. It's a terrifying precedent to set, and it certainly doesn't look good for Disney at this point, but given their status and success in the industry, they might be the only studio able to make such demands. And I do mean status. Not only does Disney own Star Wars, but also Marvel, Pixar, The Muppets, ABC Family Worldwide, Jerry Bruckheimer films, and so many more. If cinemas offend Disney, they could lose almost every big film over the next few years. Or they could simply lose the ability to show films such as Jumanji 2, Board Game Harder, The Greatest Showman, or Pitch Perfect 3 in their largest screen at a time when Star Wars box office is naturally declining. Damned if you do. But if you are still going to see Star Wars, and I've not convinced you otherwise, which I don't really expect to, do me a favour and get a Coke and popcorn from the foyer rather than the newsagents round the corner, because those cost nothing and generate a hell of a lot more money that goes towards keeping that silver screen shining. And what do you guys think? And what would it take for you to actually boycott Star Wars? Comment below, let me know. I'm Daniel, this has been a Dunking. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe.